Hello everyone, welcome back to HLS TV. I'm Molly Moran here with Ryan Ritter, and unfortunately this is not going to be a very fun episode, but we have to do it. The show must go on. So Notre Dame took another loss to Louisville yesterday. Was that yesterday? It's all a blur.
2 days ago now. We're a couple days past.
That's right. This is Monday. Oh my gosh. See? So yeah.
It's already throwing you off.
Okay, so 2 days ago, I don't even know where to start. Ryan, what are some of your thoughts?
Well, and this is one of those weird games. I'm not nearly as upset I was about this loss like I was the Northwestern loss, and that has to do with Louisville's a much better team. I don't know. Maybe it was like feeling. I'm not a parent yet, but that's the only thing I could describe it to was that, your kid, had this opportunity to do something, and then, they absolutely failed and screwed up at the last moment. So that's the only thing I think I could compare it to. I was just disappointed. Like, really, we had a chance to go to overtime, and we missed the field goal because I think it's a combination of both Brenza and Zaire. I don't think you can let Brenza completely off the hook. I think Brian Kelly even said it was part hold, part needed to be a better kick. That both could have been improved. But even then, young defense again struggled. Wasn't as bad as I feared it could have been, to be honest with you. But man, it was just frustrating that they kept on giving up big plays. Didn't seem like they could get off the field half the time. Much better in the second half, but just a whole lot of just not enough. I think that's.
Yeah, I was gonna say kind of like a case of too little, too late. I thought most of the game, but I agree. I think Louisville was definitely less disappointing than Northwestern, which I still don't like to think about. But I think just the fact that it's been like 3 in a row now is just not fun. But definitely it was a little bit easier to stomach.
And one thing, there weren't as many mistakes. There were still some mistakes. Golson did have an interception. He didn't play, a perfect game, but I don't think he was repeatedly shooting the team in the foot. And thankfully, his second half performance justified Kelly's decision of keeping him in there, because I thought he was going to get yanked, to be quite honest with you.
Right.
Just with his body language and.
I was going to say, he just looks so defeated.
Yeah, and that's honestly becoming more concerning to me than the turnovers, because it's just like we talked about this last week, and I've talked about it in a couple other places, that it's most concerning that Golson just doesn't seem to be the one popping back up and rallying his team to the cause. And Kelly's been saying, it's not just enough to do my bad. There's got to be some kind of emotional investment into it. So. That's what disappointed me, especially. Good night. Let me try to get the sun out of my frame. Dangers of morning filming, man. I made it worse. Have fun with the audio on this, guys. Wondering why I'm shifting around and going ADD. Anyway.
Well, the weather looks really nice in Texas, if anyone's wondering.
Yeah, it's really pretty outside. But yeah. Anyway, that's the most concerning part, was that Golson was just not showing, that emotional leadership at the point where him and Kelly kind of had like a sideline confrontation-ish thing. Was more of a one-sided confrontation, just about, because Kelly's biggest thing was, don't walk away from me.
Yeah.
and I really don't know what Golson said. It's like, come on, I did this, for this reason, and it just didn't make a whole lot of sense and blah blah blah. But I'm like, he's got to be finding the bench soon at this point. So
yeah.
Didn't happen, and I think Kelly obviously saw something a lot of us didn't, because I was all for benching him for the second half personally. How did you feel about that when the mistakes and everything else was ongoing?
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure how I felt. I kind of had mixed feelings, just because we've kind of talked about it before, and I kind of felt like, I guess Kelly does see something in him that we don't, but I don't know. Yeah, this game, I kind of had like a why not attitude too. Like, I just kind of felt like if you threw Malik Zaire in there, it's like how much more hurt could it do anyway? So just the way the season's gone. So I would have been in favor for benching him. Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't as strong as some people. I don't think. I kind of was like, either way, pick your poison.
Yeah, and right now it was more when because I did put it on Twitter. I'm like, I wouldn't be shocked if he comes in, and most of that reason was it just something needed to happen to provide an emotional boost.
Yeah.
I think that may have been the biggest thing, was that the team just seemed dead, and in the second half, they got the boost one way or the other. So that was the good news for me, was that in the second half, the team as a whole, and it was offense and defense. Usually it's one or the other. The defense came out, had a big stop.
They look great.
Yeah, the defense came out, had a huge stop. The offense came out and just made it look easy. And, eventually things, kind of slid back, regressed a little, but, it went more in the direction of what I hoped it would. So that it could have been worse. I don't know if I like saying that, because that makes me sound like I'm accepting defeat, and that's not really the case, to be honest with you. It's just that, like I said, it was just Arizona State was frustrating because we shot ourselves in the foot repeatedly. Northwestern was just all kinds of god-awful, rock-bottom type stuff. This was just like, really? I guess. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. But and if you think about it, even though we missed a potential game-time field goal, we still got a circus catch of a touchdown that even got us to that point.
That was crazy. That was definitely karma going our way for once or something.
Yeah, that was one where I think it was Syracuse coach that claimed we were getting a lot of luck of the Irish, and I was like, what are you talking about? We're coughing up the ball repeatedly.
Right.
But that one was pure luck of the Irish, because that was a tip drill, and Will Fuller just happened to be right place, right time, because that had disaster written all over it. I'm surprised it didn't turn into an interception, but hey, that's one of those where you're like, take it, don't complain about it, and hopefully it works in our favor. But hey, it didn't. So I mean, that's another thing you can look back and say, yeah, you know what, we were lucky that it was this close anyway.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, with the way, again, not to sound like I'm accepting defeat, but just, you do have to analyze the situation. It could have been so much worse. I honestly, Golson's demeanor and just the entire team, I was just like, they just did not look happy or interested in the game. Like, they just looked so defeated and down on themselves. Like, this isn't good. So I was just happy that they were even able to pull it together at half, for the second half.
Yeah. I just wonder why we can't do that at the beginning of the game, though. And honestly, that's been a problem for the team most of the year. It's been slow starts or quick start and then right back to slow immediately. So I'm not sure.
I know, it is really inconsistent. I don't get it either.
I mean, and it's not just the offense. The defense has the same problem too, and the defense has lots of reasons. And man, they had more because, you say it couldn't get much worse. It almost did with as many injuries as we get.
I know. I was like, do we still have 11 guys to put out there? I was like, who do we have?
Yeah, Sheldon Day's out now. I read yesterday that he's out with an ankle injury. That he's stud. Cody Riggs is going to be limited at best. I think Kelly was very, hesitant to say he's like he will have a role at USC, which means to tell me maybe he'll play here or there.
Right.
Not a very good vote of confidence. And then as if we already didn't have enough depth chart problems, Niles Morgan has a textbook targeting helmet to helmet, flying helmet to helmet hit, no less, than a quarterback. So he's out for the first half of USC, and Guerrero Martini is now going to be your starter. It's just it's incredible. And even in the press conference, it was either the press conference or the conference call, and we talked about this yesterday, Redfield specifically not getting the start over Tranquil. I mean, we never even talked about Elijah Shoemate.
Yeah.
And Kelly said, basically summed up they're not performing in practice was his reasoning for it. So they're apparently, according to Kelly, they're not in a doghouse, but I'm not sure. It was really said something to me to where Drew went down temporarily, and the next person in was Eli. I can't say his first name. Is it Elair or Ilar Hardy? Ilar Hardy, I think so. You say it.
Yeah, I think so.
So the guy that's been suspended for most of the season is the one that got the shot over Redfield.
Yeah.
To which I'm wondering if is Kelly just delivering a message to the two of them that they're not doing enough? And he flat
It's a
out said,
strong message.
yeah, he flat out said Collinsworth is injured and is not playing 100% right now, which shows in his tackling. It's obvious he's not playing as well as he should. So it
Right.
just it's like, how bad are they practicing? Or they just,
I know.
have they mailed it in? And this is like a gut check for Kelly to hope that for the final week going against Southern Cal that they're just going to up it immediately to get back in the mix. I don't know. It was just
I know. It seems like
so,
there's got to be a little bit more to that story. I
yeah.
mean, I think if you're showing up, you can't be practicing that bad. Gosh.
I mean, and they've struggled this season. I mean,
Right.
obviously that's been obvious, but
Yeah.
I just think that was the big red flag. Maybe Drew Tranquil getting in, you can kind of see it, but once Hardy stepped in as well, you're like,
Yeah. I'm
whoa.
like, oh.
Yeah, so because somebody actually said to me, it's like, oh, what did Redfield do? It has to be like a secret suspension. I was like, well, Kelly's usually upfront about it. He usually doesn't care.
Yeah.
There was that whole man, I forget who it was off the top of my head that had that texting thing at the team dinner before the Pinstripe Bowl.
Oh, yeah. I remember. I can't remember who it was either, but yeah, wasn't that a bowl game or something too?
Yeah, it was right before the bowl game, and there was
Yeah.
a lot of rumors because he ended up not coming back to the team and tried to go to the NFL. Man, I'm going to kick myself for that, but
I know. I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah, and that was my line of thinking that, man, I don't think this is some weird
Right.
disciplinary thing because
Right, he's
Kelly,
upfront with that kind of stuff.
yeah, Kelly doesn't care, and he's already had enough of those outside of his control. So why would he even care about hiding something? That just didn't make sense to me. But who knows at this point? But I will say this for the defense, and I know Van Gorder is getting a lot of flack, and I'm not really sure I can blame it on him with how young this defense is, with how many people playing that flat out should not be playing right now. Niles Morgan he's way too raw to be in there. Drew Tranquil is showing mistakes. I mean, he got an interception, so I mean, good for him, but he's still learning the position. Collinsworth should probably be resting on the sidelines, but that's just not the situation we have right now. But they fight. I'll give them that. They fight.
No, I agree. I mean, like reading tweets about people, wanting Brian Van Gorder gone or whatever after like a season. I'm like, guys, come on. And I know it's like just kind of like a passionate in the moment thing, but yeah, I don't think you can at all completely like even analyze him as a coach right now because there's way too many factors that are outside his control. So yeah, I mean, for as young as they are, for them to come back like that in the second half and just even be playing like they are, which isn't the greatest sometimes. I mean, you can't say too much because oh my goodness, it's so patchwork right now.
Right, and not only that, he's got to be simplifying it. I can't see any way that
exactly. I don't think this is probably his ideal, defense right now. Or, I'm sure he's not calling some of the plays he'd like or whatever. So
yeah, so I'm because the defense in general doesn't look as aggressive as they have been. So that's kind of my justification. I will be perfectly honest. I am not sitting and watching game tape to say it's like, oh yeah, we're blitzing this many people each play.
Right.
Mostly because it's hard to sit through and stomach watching these losses again.
I was going to say, you don't want to watch that Northwestern game again? Why not?
Yeah, so it's not a lack of, it's not that I'm lazy or anything. It's just
right. They're not interested. It's just self-defense.
Yes, it is self-defense.
Self-preservation.
I chose to focus and watch wrestling last night rather than which was a good call on my part because man, I went to bed super happy at the end of Survivor Series. So I was perfect. My favorite wrestler of all time.
Now looking up like wrestling programs, like wait, super happy. That sounds good. We'll try it.
Yeah, well, anybody that was subjected to my timeline Sunday night, Oak actually said it's like. If the guy that came back, his name was Sting, is like either Sting just showed up at Survivor Series or Texas having a stroke. I'm not sure which one it is because I was going full nuts, so it was a lot of fun. But yeah, that was my choice. It is a defense mechanism. It's like this thing is probably going to be more enjoyable than sitting here trying to figure out what Van Gorder's doing with the defense that is a freaking unit. But yeah, so. I mean, he's got a complicated scheme. That's one thing. Obviously, the injuries is another. And let's not forget, this guy was the toast of the town after Michigan and Stanford in particular for putting up solid defensive efforts. What was already a patchwork unit, because if anybody got hit hard by the suspensions, it was the defense that just got hosed. They
Right.
lost so many players and starters at that. In particular, Ishaq Williams was expected to have a big breakout season. Kavari Russell is probably one of the best cornerbacks in the nation, and Cole Luke has progressed so well. Cody
Yeah.
Riggs, of course, has been great, but man, could you imagine the secondary if you have Riggs and Russell as your 1 and 2 corners, and then Luke in the
Yeah.
nickel? So, I mean, that's the kind of thing that just drives you nuts,
I
because
know.
you can't make that as the lone excuse. You still got to go win the football game to
Exactly.
begin with, but you know,
I know, but knowing that, like knowing what could have been, is always tempting to kind of what if. But yeah.
right. And you basically punt on this one, because there's no way you can make a rational judgment. And if BK decided to make Van Gorder fall on the sword, I would legitimately start getting upset at Brian Kelly for making knee-jerk decisions, because then I'd say, look, you swapped your holder, for Zaire just to apparently make a change, and now you're kicking Van Gorder to the curb just because a few things didn't go right. I'm not sure you can do that, and
Right. Yeah,
I mean,
and I'd be shocked.
yeah, it's just it's frustrating. Like I said, this
Right.
loss is it's not really maddening. It's a frustrating thing, because that the team is in just such a big hole right now that it's hard for them to dig out. Now, I will say this. One thing that is confusing, especially with how much the defense is hurting, I want to know what you think about this. Shouldn't we maybe be trying to play a little bit more ball control on the offense, and letting Terrion Folson, who's starting to become one of the best players on the offense, just kind of do his thing?
Yeah, one would think. I'd like that idea.
Yeah, and I know I'm usually not one to say, to because I think sometimes run the ball is almost a cop out to fix the problems, but literally,
But we have someone that can.
yeah, we have
Then.
someone. Yeah, one, we have someone we can, who hasn't really been stopped, and not only
Right.
that, we need to protect that defense.
Right.
We absolutely have to. I remember I took a look at this when I called into ND Fan Radio. We were talking about the offense, and I said, you know what? Here's the weird part. When we scored, we were almost too efficient, because all of our touchdown drives, 2 of them were under a minute, and one was barely over a minute. So
Right.
good things happen, but then the defense is like, oh, shit, we got to go back
Yeah.
out there again.
Right. And go back out there again.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's been I think that's hurt as well. There's been a lot of things, turnovers being the biggest one, but
Right.
that's another way to protect the defense. And with the way the weather was, I was pretty shocked. I mean, Folston, when you look at the stats at the end of the day, he's still getting a very healthy amount of carries. He's getting over 100 yards like it's, clockwork. And you can almost bet on it at this point that he's going to get a 100-plus yard game. And especially with the single game rushing record seemingly falling every week, you're just kind of like, Kelly, just 1 week. Let's see if maybe we can take a stab at it and just see what happens.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Especially
at this point,
yeah,
let's do it.
yeah. And God, with Southern Cal coming up, with this defense, and the thing about Southern Cal, and I've watched their past couple of games. Well, the thing that stands out to me is, one, yeah, they're super fast, and I'm scared to death of how our defense
Great.
matches up.
Yeah.
But two, it seems if you can survive their best shot in the first quarter and really the first half overall, if you're hanging around, you have a pretty good chance to win the football game. Cal almost came all the way back on them after being buried. They've lost a lot of games at the last minute, and this past week, UCLA took their best shot, and that best shot still didn't get them the lead, because UCLA was up on them pretty comfortably at the half. And then the second half, UCLA actually shot themselves in the foot more than they should. That should have been an absolute blowout by UCLA. Southern Cal was just done. They were absolutely done. I don't know if it's a conditioning thing. I don't know if the players just aren't buying into what Sarkisian's selling right now. I don't know if just Sarkisian just isn't that great of a coach. I wasn't completely sold on the move. I know a couple other people were concerned. I was like, this seems like a mediocre hire at best for
Hmm.
them. So I really don't know where they are, but that's the thing is, can we, if the best way to survive that shot is to keep them off the field. So
Right.
if we can do that, I don't know if I can say, yeah, we can beat these guys. I think it's a team we could possibly beat, but I also think there's a reason the lines opened up with Notre Dame down by a touchdown, and
Hmm.
with USC being the favorite. So how are you feeling about that game? That's
Not as
your face
optimistic
says
as I
it all.
usually do. I'm just like, I honestly, my concern is just like more than anything, even athletic, or I can't even like form words right now because I'm just like, no, more than anything like skill related or anything like that. It's just like their attitudes because you know the game against Louisville was senior day. I thought for sure they're gonna be able to pull it together a lot sooner. Kind of like let's do this for the seniors, guys. And I just felt like I didn't even see like emotion half the time. So I was just a little worried about that because I mean, football is, like I say it all the time, but it's mental. You have to at least go out there and want to win. And sometimes I'm doubting that in the middle of these games. Like, what are you guys doing? So, and, then there is also the physicality of the game. That's obviously a big part of it. So, I'm feeling like I just really want to end the season on a win, but I'm a little worried. But we'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, right now it just feels like they're taking so many punches to the gut right now that they're
Yeah.
reeling and they need to feel like they've counterpunched and knocked somebody out. And honestly, I'm glad the last game to hopefully put an end to this is USC because it is a rivalry game.
See, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking they could at least get pumped up for this one.
Right, because you can only manufacture so much, especially when you're on the ropes. Against Northwestern. Northwestern was in a letdown situation after a huge game against Arizona State because you went
Hmm.
from playoff contender to crap. What now? Well, here's
Right.
Northwestern, I guess. And then after that, it's like, well, hell, we lost to Northwestern. We're
Right.
reeling. Half our team's hurt. So now,
Hmm.
if we see that lack of emotion again against Southern Cal, I'm definitely going to be concerned in a huge
Right.
way because,
Yeah,
I
and I
mean,
would. Yeah, I
think,
mean,
think
like you
about
said, it's
Michigan.
a rivalry game. So I'd hope they could get it together. But
Right, and they showed a lot of passion and heart against Michigan. They had a slow start, but you could see as time went on, they were like, "No, we're going to win this game,"
hmm.
and they got better and better as the game progressed. And
Right, and see, that's what I always said. I always thought that this team seemed like one that even if they were down, they just always got it together toward the end, and then that kind of started to be the opposite, and they
yeah,
would kind of die down toward the end. But
I mean, they somewhat got it together. Like I said,
it
I
did.
still want to tip my hat to Golson. He put together very very good drive. We had good to great Golson towards the end of the game. It's just
Mm,
disappointing that the most accurate kicker in Notre Dame history,
I know.
missed the one that mattered. And yeah, we can. I don't think for a chip shot like that, the way he pushed that kick, I don't think you can fully put that on the hold. I can
Yeah.
understand because it wasn't like he barely missed it. I mean, that was a bad push.
Right. Yeah. It was.
And that's my uneducated, I've never kicked a football that's being bobbled around opinion. Because I know one of the guys at 1 Foot Down, Patrick, that does all of his, all of his special teams posts.
Mm,
He was like, no, that's completely on Zaire. I was like, I just can't completely absolve it. I think
mhm.
and it has to do with, I think Brenz is a lot better than that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to call him a head case, but I can understand. I pitched in high school for baseball, so that's the only thing I can relate it to. There were certain catchers that I liked to pitch to
Hmm.
better than others because I felt like they knew what I wanted to do more often. I wouldn't have to shake off their signs or have to talk to
Hmm.
them in between innings on the mound, etc. You know, to where I felt more in sync with them. I just felt more
Right.
comfortable with them. Um, so that's the only thing I could compare it to with my
Hmm.
sporting experience to where, you know, in the back of Brenza's head, he's wondering, is this one going to get bobbled? Is this one going to get bobbled? And then when he sees any
Right.
kind of little, because Zaire eventually got the thing down to where I think the hold should have been, was good enough to make the kick. But Brenza didn't break his stride. But I wouldn't be surprised because stuff like kicking and like that, where you're just doing the same thing over and over. A lot of it's mental, and
Mm-hmm,
if you
for
have that,
sure.
if you have that quick mental moment to where in the middle of your mechanics you think something's going wrong.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're thinking at all, it's probably not good.
Right. Then maybe your hips fly open a little bit. I know, that's one thing I would always be told what pitching is like. Just all you have to think about is like you can barely even do it. Just make your pitch, throw your target. You need to be on autopilot because the moment you
Right.
start thinking is like, oh, is my arm dragging a little slow? Am I getting my
Mhm.
hips around quick enough? Am I driving off the mound enough? Am I, if you have all these thoughts in your heads, am I gripping the ball
Right.
right? Then all of a sudden your pitch sails to the wrong spot and it's going either not where you want it to, and it's either a bad result where it's either a ball or gets hit over your head or over the fence. So
Mhm.
I think that has to do. I think it was kind of like a perfect storm out of all of it, and that's the way I read into Brian Kelly's. We needed a better kick and a better hold to where, I mean, like I said, Brent's is good enough to make that. I really
Yeah, I
think.
was gonna say, I think by his reaction too, I think he was upset at himself. You know what I mean? Just as equally as he was. It's not like he looked at a
Man,
year.
on the sideline though, that
Really? I felt like
yeah,
after he looked upset at himself. I didn't. I couldn't watch it real time though. So
yeah. If you
did
if you
you
happen
go
to
up
go
to him or
back and watch
something?
afterward, because there was a discussion between Kelly, Brenza, and Zaire
Right.
to where it was like Kelly's trying to figure out. I was like, well, what the hell happened? Like, how did we miss this chip shot field goal? Now we're going to lose.
Right.
Brenza, and he was fairly animated too, like talking, making hand motions about where the ball was going and everything
Uh,
like that. Zaire just looks defeated. Kelly is just wondering how the hell this happened.
right.
So I do think Brenza. I don't think Brenza was simply pointing the finger. I don't want to throw him under the bus in
Right.
that
No,
matter.
but no, that's understandable. I'm sure he was still saying something about its placement, which is understandable.
Yeah, I compare it to uh, excuse me. Well, like Golson, talking to Kelly about an interception and basically
Hmm.
making motions. Well, I thought he was going to go this way, and that's why,
Right.
and I threw the ball there, and
Yeah.
it's going over that way. I think that's kind of
Yeah.
what happened
Comparable.
there. Like
Hmm.
it's like I said, I think it was there was a lot of failure on both ends there. But yeah, and I just hope at some point we don't have to keep talking about holding,
I
kicking,
know
and
things
things
that
like
seem
that.
like they should be, yeah, automatic and not difficult.
Well, okay, we probably beat up on ourselves enough.
I know we did.
Let's do some good things. You got
Let's do good
MVPs?
things. Yeah, I have MVPs. For the defense, I think I'd go with Cole Luke. I was really impressed with him.
Nice. That
Um,
would have been my pick as well. I
yeah, I was. I don't know. I guess it's not like I hadn't been paying attention to him all season, but my goodness, I think just in the midst of like the defense falling apart, he just like really emerged, and I was like, Cole Luke, look at you. He
yeah,
did great.
it was like once he got that interception, you were kind of like, he's very quietly putting together a really, really good
Yeah.
season because you have to consider he wasn't expected to start, and he's done a very good job and he was on Louisville's best receiver
He
too.
was.
And what stood out the most was that Louisville switched to formation to where, for one reason or other, they didn't have Luke completely shadowing him. So
Mhm.
Devin Butler was on him, and they scored it. I mean, he got burned immediately. You know,
Mhm.
I don't really fault Devin Butler too much because the guy's
Right.
just good, and he made a good
Mhm.
move. He just got juked, and he couldn't recover. That happens. But the fact that Cole Luke has been shutting down good receivers it feels very good right now. It makes me feel a little bit better about USC if he can manage
Yeah.
to keep Nelson Aguilar in check. We have a fighting chance. To like I said, to survive that first big punch. I completely agree with you. He's by far stood out the most. And the other thing I want to point out is that with the defensive line having as much trouble as they are, with
Mhm.
Van Gorder having to dial the blitzes back, that makes life really hard for a corner who has been depending on quarterbacks making panic decisions and not
Mhm.
making the best throws. So he's having to defend more often than not pretty good passes. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but I also, since we're talking defense, I also want to give a hat tip to uh, Jason Hayes, and we had one other. Oh man, we had one other young guy step in that had a good game too, and I'm blanking on it right now because we had two. Uh, it wasn't Trumbetti. We had somebody else on the line, but they stepped up towards the end and started putting together an
Mm-hmm.
actual four-man pass rush, which helped monumentally. So
Yeah.
definite hat tip to them. Hat tip to Greer Martini, who stepped in as soon as Niles went out. He ended up getting a sack. So there's a lot of silver linings here. I hate doing moral victories after third loss in a row, but
We
there
need
was some good
something to
things
cling
there.
to. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
Makes
Um,
yeah. I mean, the defense by all accounts should be great next year. I hate that we're having to look there already, but by
I
all
know.
accounts, we should be pretty good.
Yeah. So offense, you first.
I'm gonna go with Terrion Folston because
Mm-hmm.
he's again. I gotta wave that he's the best player on the team banner over and over again, as much as I can. Especially when he has just another regular run of the mill 100-yard game.
Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah. If I'm gonna give a hat tip to anybody else, it's gonna be Fuller because
Fuller.
Fuller.
Yeah,
I
no, I
think
had
we
the
know
same
this.
thoughts. That's why I was like, I bet you're thinking what I'm thinking. Yeah.
So is that your MVP? Is Will?
Yeah. Yeah, probably Will Fuller, Terry, and Folston kind of duo. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I do want to give, because I know we ragged on the special teams. I do think we need to highlight the one good thing that, well, there's some other good things, but the one huge great thing that happened, that was Greg Bryant nearly taking one to the house.
Oh yeah, that was awesome. Yeah.
And you could tell. I mean, that was one play where you could. We've been waiting for. We've talked a lot about the motion. That was the one time you really felt Notre Dame got a shot in the arm
Yep.
because and man, and I'm surprised Kelly didn't let him finish that drive out. I wish he did
Mhm.
because he kept his helmet on. He wanted to go back in. He wanted that damn touchdown.
Yeah,
And
he did.
I think everybody in the stadium, everybody watching the game, wanted him to get that damn touchdown because he
Yeah,
earned
I
it. He
forgot.
absolutely earned it. So that
That's
was
right. I forgot about that. I like ending on good things because see, you forget about that stuff.
yeah. If I have one criticism of Kelly in this game, it would be he did not put Greg Bryant back in to get the
Back
touchdown
in.
that he freaking earned
Yeah,
because
for
I
sure.
mean, he barely stepped out at the three and like Superman dove 3 yards straight to try to get that touchdown.
Hmm.
And I think when you put an effort like that together, especially
Yeah,
since you have
that's yours.
yeah, they reviewed it so he could get his wind back and get his legs back from under him. Maybe you set him out of play, but after that it's like hell, this is yours, go get it because
Hmm.
he's so hyped up on adrenaline at that point, and he's just thinking I'm getting the damn ball in the end zone. You gotta
Right.
let him do it. You just gotta.
I know.
So that was the only thing I was disappointed. But yeah, that was we saw great punt return. So not everything is terrible.
No, it's not. Not everything is terrible. Yeah, so I don't know. I guess anything else to add, or we can just add on not everything is terrible. That's a good note to keep in mind.
Yeah, and hopefully, I mean, I would feel so much better because I had a couple people that got mad at me for saying this, like, because my specific words were, just beat Southern Cal and it will redeem this crap that's happened to us. And some people jumped on me. I was like, there's no way it can redeem this. It's like, well, the reason I say that is because, yes, we can't turn back time and become a playoff contender again. We can't all of a sudden, pretend everything's great just because we beat Southern Cal. But with everything terrible that's happened, if we can look back at the season and say, hey, things were terrible for some stretches, but we beat Michigan, we beat Stanford, and we beat Southern Cal, you know, it could be a hell of a lot worse. And I know that's moving goalposts. Some people might say I'm accepting mediocrity, but I'll tell you what, you don't want to lose to your rivals. Losing sucks enough as it is. You definitely don't want to lose to the people that you don't like.
Yes, no, I agree. I think a win against Southern Cal would be bigger than some people are letting on. I think it would be huge. I agree with you. Just because one, it's the last one, you can at least end on a win. And yeah, they're huge rivals. And after you've lost three, to be able to pull it together and win one, I think that's huge for the team.
Yeah,
So
and they're thinking the same thing. They just lost to one of their rivals. I mean, they're in a gauntlet right now.
yeah.
They're going back to back, UCLA and then us. Those are their two biggest games. They've got the regional
Hmm.
rivalry that's huge for them in LA, and now you
Yep.
got the big national rivalry that is very important to both fan bases. So
Hmm.
both teams are looking to end on high notes, and don't think for 1 second Sarkisian isn't wanting to get his first rivalry win under his
Right.
belt to be able to
Yeah.
say, okay, yeah, I lost to UCLA. Well, you know what? They're a top 10 team, but I made sure I beat Notre Dame. So it's going to
Hmm.
matter to everybody. And, there's definitely two camps. I definitely think there's a lot of Notre Dame fans that are 100% on board with beating Southern Cal is going to not have as terrible of a taste in our mouths with this season. So I
Hmm.
don't want to make it seem like everybody on our fan
Right.
base
No.
is completely disagreeing with my assessment. I do think there's two separate camps there, and I understand the frustration. So I mean,
No,
I'm
I get it
frustrated
too.
too, especially because I have to go and talk about this two more times this
Oh,
week.
lucky you.
Yeah, I know.
Lucky you.
Yeah, because I have to talk about it here. I'm sure I'll write something, especially since I have the day off of work while we're filming this in the morning. For
Hmm.
Thanksgiving, I'm off work, so I'll probably write something about this, and then I'll be going on my radio show Friday, and Saturday I'll actually be sub hosting. I don't know how much I will want to talk about this, but it's kind of the expected format for me to follow that I at least mention what happened with Notre Dame because we have Notre Dame Club of Dallas members that are going to be in studio as well. So that's
Yeah.
a lot of times to talk about things that are just not fun. And
That is a lot of time.
so believe me, maybe you may think I don't take this as hard enough as I should, but trust me, it's not fun doing that. I hate it when we
Right.
lose. My wife looked at me as soon as the kick sailed wide right. She's like, "Are you gonna be okay tonight?" I'm just like, I just don't even know what to say anymore. It's like this. It's like I'm not nearly as mad as last weekend, but hell, this sucks.
I know.
What are we gonna? I just want the bleeding to stop. Just stop the
I know.
bleeding
I agree.
because it's a long off season, folks. That's the other thing. It's a
I
long
know.
off season.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, oh my gosh, I only have one more regular season game. I was like, it went so fast.
Yeah. Oh well, I guess before we go, we should talk about. We've discussed bowl tie-ins.
Okay.
I've got a little bit better understanding, kind of.
Kind of, maybe.
So one thing I have found out because we mentioned the different bowls that Notre Dame could be selected to,
Hmm.
and they're all ACC tie-ins at this point because the Orange Bowl's out, the New Year's Six are out, the playoff committee is not putting us in anywhere. So now we're taking the ACC spot. So
Okay.
I was curious as to whether or not, and I didn't know at the time, are the bowls going to pick an ACC pecking order? Like the highest ranked team or the team with the best record
Right.
must be picked over Notre Dame. Is that written into anybody's contract? Apparently, it's not. It's the
Oh,
way
okay.
the old bowl system is, and the reason I say this is because I have seen a couple different bowl projections that have put Notre Dame in the Russell Athletic Bowl, who will have most likely the first shot at Notre Dame because I think the Citrus Bowl will take, just because of where Notre Dame is, there will be a better matchup on the table from them to get a
Hmm.
better ACC team in there. Right now Louisville's earning it, so
Hmm.
Louisville could be in there. Clemson might sneak in. Georgia Tech's playing decent football right now, so
Hmm.
that very well could be where they end up going with that. But if Notre Dame is good enough, they can thumb their noses at it, and because they're trying to set up not just a good matchup, but they're trying to sell tickets as well,
Right.
and that's what
And we
always
all know
works in
Notre
Notre
Dame
Dame's
sells
favor.
tickets. Yep.
And obviously, the fear is, well, crap. Are we going to face a really good team that may wipe the floor with us? Well, yeah, possible. But the other possibility is we get one more shot to, one, we'll get a little bit healthier with the break in
Hmm.
the bowl week. And two, again, that's another solid way to try to move forward in the season, especially since so
Exactly.
many of these bowl games after the Russell Athletic Bowl have SEC tie-ins, and the way the SECs kick the crap out of each other this season, who knows who you can end up with. So
Hmm.
there's all kinds of cool matchups that LSU might happen, Texas A&M might happen. Heck, Georgia might happen. The SEC right now has cannibalized each other to such a level to where it almost seems like a certainty that a two-loss SEC champ's going to happen. I about am expecting it at this point. So yeah, so there's still something to play for. Obviously, with that being said, it's easier to make those justifications for the Russell Athletic Bowl for a 4-loss ND team rather than a 5-loss ND team to get in there. It's a little bit easier for them to justify because, again, they still want a good matchup. They don't want to be the laughing stock or get the ACC pissed at them for that matter.
Right.
Because it's still a political game to where it's like, okay, look, I know we're in this together and Notre Dame's kind of a part of us, but seriously, dude, you screwed one of our teams and we're not happy about it. Because that could affect future contracts down the line, and that's a mess for everybody. So they still got to play nice.
Right. So beat USC. That's what we have to do.
Yeah. So beating USC matters for many different reasons.
Yes.
And I think I also feel safe saying this, to where I mentioned, the Tier 2 bowls, which have the really crappy matchups. Don't think that's on the table, and a lot of that is in thanks to the ACC not being that great this year. So I think we'll land in that Tier 1 matchup, and I'm hoping that we avoid a Pinstripe Bowl draw, which I think we will, because I think the Belk Bowl might have first pick after Russell Athletic of ACC teams, and I think there may be one more bowl even before that may have a shot. So
that's good.
That I'll have to double check, but I know the Pinstripe Bowl, I'm almost positive that they're kind of lower in the pecking order, and I just don't see, especially like a Belk Bowl, they've never had Notre Dame there. They love to have that matchup. So I really think we'll end up in a semi-decent bowl game, one that we will actually be excited to watch, one that we'll actually be excited to play against. Maybe that's me being overly optimistic. If USC, God forbid, wipes the floor on us, who knows? Maybe we end up right back in Pinstripe hell. But I'm hoping not.
We're trying to avoid that right now.
Yes, we're trying to happy
all
things.
Thoughts and everything. Yeah. We're ending with positive thoughts here.
Very positive. There's good things are going to happen. We have to win one of. Brian Kelly's great in November. This is an anomaly. Think about that. This is not it's that thing. It's the thing that usually doesn't happen. That's not going according to the rules.
Right.
I have a radio show, by the way, and I can't mincing words.
It's okay. I can hardly get thoughts together. It's okay. Thanks for listening, guys. We don't know why you do. I'm just kidding.
Yes, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I guess as long as we're thanking people, if you are listening to us on the podcast channel, I finally got things working to where our logos are showing up, our episodes are showing up properly, so it's all running good. So if you are listening to us via podcast, give us a review. Please make it a positive one, unless we're really, really doing awful. We're not above listening to criticisms. Feel free to give suggestions, but the reason we need the good reviews is because it does help get that podcast. So if somebody's searching a Notre Dame podcast, will appear, right alongside a handful of other very well-respected podcasts. So please give us, some good reviews and things along those lines. Spread the word. Subscribe on iTunes. Subscribe, via Podbean. That's another way to do it if you don't like doing the iTunes thing. So, good things will happen. We'll promise. 5-star review equals wins. How about that? Bribes.
Yeah, there we go.
Bribes of things we can't guarantee. That's a smart marketing ploy, isn't it?
Yeah, like the presidency.
That's oh no, let's not start comparing to the White House. That would be a disaster to have there.
We're better than that.
Oh, all right. So there we go. Subscribe, review, like us, like the YouTube video, share the YouTube video, all that cool stuff.
Yeah, and let's beat Southern Cal.
Yes, go Irish, beat Trojans.
We got this.
Since we are her loyal sons.